Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Good evening, everyone. I, Hassan Ahmad, welcome you all in our today's webinar session, A Culture of Caring, Investigation, the Next Generation. In an era where the complexities of investigation continue to evolve, fostering a culture of caring within the investigative community has become paramount. As the next generation of investigators take the helm, it is imperative to cultivate a compassionate and empathetic approach that complements the rigorous demands of their profession. This paradigm shift not only enhances the overall effectiveness of investigations, but also ensure that justice is served in a manner that is both thorough and humane. This was the brief intro about today's session. Before proceeding further, I would like to remind you all that our annual anti-fraud forum is on 13th November at Sheraton. Registration link will be shared soon. We have joined by Mr. Haytham Al Raisi, Director Membership of ACFE 1 Chapter, and our today's speaker, Mr. Thomas Ferre. Without any further delay, I will call Mr. Haytham Al Raisi for speaker introduction. Over to you, Mr. Haytham.
Thank you so much, Hassan. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're attending from. I officially welcome you all to the webinar of today. And we all hear about the role of investigator, but what I wanted to tell you that the role of investigator goes beyond collecting and evaluating data. Our speaker today will be exploring some insights about this topic. Our speaker today is Thomas Ferre. He's a highly experienced investigator with an extensive expertise in both public and private sector. He has served in specialized serious crime units within French Gendarmerie, including the Financial Crime Division and the Serious Crime Unit. For Gendarmerie, Mr. Ferre had several complex investigations, including cases related to work exploitation, crimes, counterfeiting of luxury goods, and money laundering. He was selected to support Operation El Harbi, the largest scale and internationally known successor to Operation Anaconda, aimed at fighting illegal gold mining in French Guyana and by disrupting the logistic flows of gold miners' illegal alliance and supplies, which support the illegal mining efforts. Our speaker is currently the head of investigations for a professional service firm, WSP Global. As a part of his mandate, he conducts and oversees international investigations involving companies' operations globally in over 30 countries across numerous market sectors and approximately 60,000 employees worldwide. Mr. Thomas holds several distinguished credentials recognized in professional disciplines. He holds a master's degree in business law with a specialization in compliance and is both certified fraud examiner and certified anti-money laundering specialist. He's well trained in and he conducts training in management and investigation, including interview techniques, criminal schemes, and data analysis. Our speaker's topic today is a culture of caring, investigations, the next generation. Put your hands together to welcome our speaker, Thomas Ferre. The stage is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Haytham and Hassan, for this introduction. I will start sharing my screen. So, okay, so could you please confirm that you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. A culture of caring with investigations. I think when we think of it, caring, doing investigations, sometimes it does. I mean, it's not necessarily something that we automatically think of that's something we can do. But today, with this presentation, I would like to invite you to consider investigations as a way of taking care of the employees of a company, or just maybe of civilians or the people that we work for and people that we work with. Today, here is a glance of the agenda. We are going to start with a brief introduction, and then after that, we are going to talk about what I call investigations 3.0, a holistic approach. We are going to go through the different levels that I have identified as investigations, and before jumping into internal investigations and how we can take care of employees and put employees at the center of the process. We are going to discuss about retaliation. We are going to talk about the fear of not being heard, and also how we can promote good actions as part of our job as investigators. And I think this is essential, crucial. After that, this session will be concluded, and we are going to go through some key takeaways for this presentation. I invite you to put your questions in the chat. I can see them, so don't hesitate if you have any questions. I will take some time at the end of this presentation to answer as much as I can those questions. And if I can't answer all of them, I will take them and follow up with you after the presentation. So, and yeah, just tell me if I'm doing good and tell me if I could do better. So, introduction, investigations. And I don't think this is you who are going to contradict me, but investigations are an essential part of a compliance program. They pose concrete actions when violations are reported and or uncovered. And needless to say that traditionally in a company, we tend to consider no report as a good sign. Let's say that the fewer reports we have, the better. But I would like to invite you to think of otherwise, that to have another approach. Let's say that the more reports we have, the better. The more reports, because it means that we have people that do not hesitate to raise the hand, to raise the flag, to say, no, I do not agree with what I see, I do not agree with what I hear, and I need to report it. Reporting does not necessarily mean each time doing an investigation. It means that people feel comfortable raising the flag, raising the hand to say no to something, or to make their voice heard. Hold on, give me a minute. I'm sorry, I have a problem. And this is the problem with live events. Sometimes we just forgot to put batteries on computers and battery dies. Anyway, problem solved. So just like I said, let's think of another approach. So more reports, the better. And this approach could be a sign of an innovating company. Reports are a sign that the company takes care of the employees. It's also show that we have a good speak-up culture. And this approach, I mean, what we're going to discuss today will help you, will help the company, will help you as investigators to make employees feel comfortable to raise the hand and to challenge. The innovative approach is an employee-centered process. So let's talk about the investigation 3.0, the holistic approach. During the agenda, you saw that there were several levels of investigations. We've got the level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1 is investigations. We receive investigation and we basically we receive report and we basically investigate what we receive. The second level, and we are going to talk about that later, we receive investigation, but on top of that, we use the data from the company to identify potential issues that could not have been uncovered otherwise, and we take actions. And after that, we've got the level 3. We've got investigations, data analysis as part of the level 1 and 2, but also we use the company culture to just to do the job. So let's dive a little bit about the first level, the level 1, the traditional approach of investigations. This is what I would say a reactive position. We are here, we wait for the reports to reach out to us. I mean, we rely on reporters to raise the flag, to raise the hand, and to report a potential wrongdoing, a potential allegation. This is the very first level. This is the basic level, I would say, of investigations. We have an ethics and compliance program in place, which is good. We have a code of conduct, usually. We have policies and procedures. When we receive report, we do an investigation, and part of those objectives are to determine whether allegations are substantiated or not. We come up with a report, with an investigation report, and we issue recommendations. Those recommendations will help the business, will help the stakeholders of the company to take actions, to modify, to fill in some gaps that could have been identified as part of the investigation. So why is it important? Why this level is important? I mean, it's the basic of investigation. This is the time when we show that the management is willing to walk the talk. It's not just we have a code of conduct, we have policies and procedures and deal with that. No, it's not just that. It's we have all of that and we are going to take actions whenever there's something wrong coming up. And this is the concrete action. This is a commitment from the management, and it shows that the management is willing to look at the gaps identified, but not only willing to look at the gaps identified, but also to take appropriate actions to address the gaps. As a result, you will see a number of cases that are going to increase slowly, but it's going to increase. It will show the people that we do something, we take care of the issues. After that, we've got the second level, the data approach. This is on top of the first level. This is a data-driven approach. It consists in using technologies to assist investigations, such as like email reviews. You know, we use we've used tools to have a better way of conducting investigations, of reviewing data, but also it's also the use of technology to automatically uncover red flags for fraud or inappropriate behavior. And on this approach, we have both the reactive approach, but also a proactive approach. And this is a game changer because we do not only wait for the allegations to come to the investigators or to come to the ethics and compliance program, but we are going to look for them, to look for the inappropriate actions. The situations are addressed before they are reported. And sometimes, as part of my experience as an investigator, it makes a significant change, because there are some wrongdoings that could only be known by the alleged perpetrator. And by doing so, we are going to pick them up and say, no, this is not good what you're doing. And there are consequences. So why is it important to uncover more wrongdoing than reported? Again, it's walk the talk. We do not tolerate any wrongdoing done in the company. On the other side, we usually find smaller problems, but we find them faster. It avoids to have bigger problems that could have a significant impact in the company. And I don't know for you, but if I had to work in an environment, in a workplace where there are inappropriate behaviors, I don't think I would be a good performer. So by doing so, by addressing the frauds and inappropriate behaviors before even they are reported to us, it will have a good impact on the overall performance of the company. So how do we reach the second level? There are several ways, and what I'm showing you today are the two main one that I can think of. I mean that are the most important as far as I'm concerned. First, we've got a data crunching. We look for red flags through fraud risk assessments, through annual review of the risks with key business leaders. I think it's important in this approach to have key business leaders involved. We also use internal audit reports. We also, as part of our investigations, even though we do not do fishing expedition, but sometimes when we do reviews of documents, we identify additional risks or additional allegations. So it's good to, as part of this exercise with the technology, to look for them either. We also review red flags, and we can also think of potential schemes and that we can investigate. And I would like to refer you to the documents provided by the ACFE, the global organization. With all the documents, we've got several schemes. I mean, the main schemes that think of the fraud tree, and you will think of potential schemes that you can have a look at it. And also reporting patterns, and that's something that I love a lot. Reporting patterns. Remember at the beginning, no reports may not be a good sign, may not be a good healthy sign compared to some of your peers, compared to other regions and or sectors. In addition, a lot of reports may not be also a good sign either. But what we want to identify is spike in reports. I don't know, let's say, I'm presenting from Canada, and usually in Canada, it's just a theoretical, but usually in Canada, we may not have a lot of, I don't know, reports for fraud, or let's say expense reports. And then we've got one report, we've got a second report, and then a third report for the same business, for the same department. I mean, we could investigate each and every report that we receive, which we are going to do anyway, but by identifying those spikes in reports, it will invite us maybe to have a more deeper view, a more deeper review of all the expense reports to see where the problem comes from. But either way, investigators, we have to coordinate actions to understand the change in the patterns. The change in patterns are essential. And then we can address them by doing trainings. We can address them by doing discussions, formal and informal, and eventually by doing investigations. what are the challenges with the level 2? When we think about data, well, the first thing that comes to mind, at least that comes to my mind, is data privacy. And this is an exercise, the level 2, this is an exercise that I usually do with data privacy officers. I want them involved right at the beginning of the implementation of the level 2 to make sure that we remain within the boundaries of the data privacy framework where I work from. Let's say that the approach that I can have in France or in Europe may be different from the one that I have in Canada, US, Oman, let's say that, in the Middle East. The framework could be significantly different, so we need to pay attention to that. So it's a partnership work with data privacy officers, ethics and compliance, and investigators, legal as well. And also, the other challenge that I think of, and this is something that I've experienced, is to work on a decentralized environment. Working in a decentralized environment may lead to several issues, several barriers. And the very first problem that we can have, that we can face, is the variety of systems. A region can work on a specific ERP, and while the other regions work on another one. And how can we make the data talk to themselves and to each other? Sorry, to get something. The other thing that I can think of is issues with the accessibility, the completeness, and integrity of data. We need to have some specific knowledge of the systems and also to coordinate the gathering of data. So it's a lot of things to think of. It's not something that we can't do. It's something that takes time sometimes, just to make sure that we have something that makes sense to us, that makes sense to investigations, so we can bring an answer, or we can be proactive and not only reactive as part of this process. So what's next after the level 2? So we have a mix of reactive and proactive approach. We have a new cycle in place. We have ongoing monitoring across the company. We detect faster the misconducts, and we have a significant increase in the number of cases. The next level, I would say, is the workplace and how we can use the culture approach to have a better environment and to do better investigations. So the level 3 is the workplace, the culture approach. This approach is a holistic and global approach of investigations, or to investigations. And we talk about encompassing investigations, the culture of a company, the business. We want to work with the stakeholders and also with employees. We want, as investigators, to transform the workplace in a positive way, obviously. We talked about a cycle. With the level 1 and level 2, we started to have visibility, consequences to misconduct or inappropriate behaviors start to be visible, start to be known across the business, and we communicate about them. We anonymize, obviously, the communications, but still we can communicate as to what was done through newsletters, through trainings. We have the management, we have the leaders that acknowledge what was done, that acknowledge the gaps, and that take action. We put in place something that could be missing, and that's why we're here: accountability. We've got people doing wrong, and most of the time it's a combination of someone doing something wrong and someone else not doing his job or her job. And then when someone is doing wrong, we want to see if someone could be accountable also for what was done. Obviously, retaliation can happen. We can't guarantee that retaliation won't be happening as part of an investigation or as part of a report, but there are real consequences. And as a result, this, the level 1, the level 2, and the level 3 will create what we could call psychological safety for employees. And eventually what we want to have from employees is to have them say, we can talk, investigators have our back. Is there any questions from the audience so far?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you like to now?
Excuse me?
What would you like to take the questions now?
Just, maybe one. Let's.
Okay. What type of technological tools which could be used in investigations?
So I would say that there are several types of technologies that we can think of. The very first is the accounting system. There are accounting systems, ERP, that could be used to generate automated reports. And the way you configure, the way you set those reports, you can target some specific potential wrongdoings that make sense to your business. And then on a regular basis, you receive reports saying there may be something wrong here, or there may be something wrong here, or everything's good. So this is the main tool as part of uncovering potential wrongdoings are part of the ERP systems, the accounting systems used by companies. And on the other end, we also have investigators tools like the tools that you use to perform email reviews. I really hope that you don't use Outlook to do email reviews. That's another story. But I really encourage you to use the really adequate tools to do email reviews, or to review data from your computers, from your laptop, from your devices. And this is how you can uncover potential wrongdoings. There's also, when we are working with IT, we've got some tools that are set up in computers that can help identifying potential inappropriate behaviors using the laptop, downloading data, uploading data, and to somewhere where it should not go. So this is something that I can think of. Yeah, so I will continue because I don't want to be late. But yeah, so that's I will answer other questions after that. So how do we identify difficult workplaces? Because the level 3 eventually will be to identify workplaces where everything seems to be good and workplaces where this is difficult to work. And the first step will be to do a culture assessment in partnership with HR, human resources, and the business. And it's really important when we do a culture assessment to do that in partnership with HR and the business. They have a thorough knowledge and understanding of the business, of the sectors, of the industry overall. And that's, they can bring some context as to what is going on somewhere. And we need to do that not necessarily at the top level of a company, but also at all levels, from top to bottom. We want to know the experience lived by employees. We want to understand the experience that they live, that the employees live while being at work. And we're going to go back later on this one, but it's really important to understand that the experience of an entry-level employee may be significantly different from someone on the senior leadership position. The culture assessment, it should include a survey at all levels of at all employees at all levels in each sector, regions, places, department, you name it. And it's I mean, it's going to be a good indicator. And this is where we want to partner with HR. They want to know what's going on in the business, and we can use their tool. We can use their surveys to assess the situation. We are going also to use the investigators' experiences. We have information. We are a source of valuable. We are a gold mine of information as part of the company. We meet people. We talk to people. We understand the business. We know a lot. We go through gaps. Our experience as investigators is hugely valuable. Again, the assessment, as part of the level 2, we are going to use the continuous monitoring. And well, the level 1, we are going to use the reporting line information. And the outcome to that will be to identify places, departments, or even teams, if we go to the macro level, where there could be a risk of psychological unsafety. Let's talk about psychological safety. And maybe you could put on the chat, if you know what it is, and as well, if you don't know what it is, and we'll talk about that later. But psychological safety is something that I do think we have a significant role to play with within the company. It's something that is not necessarily new, but it's something that we start to hear more and more and more as the time goes. It was first coined by Edgar Schein in the 1960s. 1960s. It's nearly 40, it's nearly 17 years old, psychological safety, and we start to hear from it, right? I mean, those 10, 15 years now, and it's something that has been extensively studied by Amy Edmondson for nearly 3 decades, and you can follow her on LinkedIn. She is a very good resource as to how we can enable psychological safety in the workplace. She has wrote at least 2 books that I can recall now, and that are really interesting when it comes to create this psychological safety at work and the workplace. And Amy Edmondson defines psychological safety as mentioned on the screen. So a team is psychologically safe when all members feel safe to take interpersonal risks and feel valued by the team. So the question is, what do we see as interpersonal risks? It refers to speaking up about a problem, or raising a difficult issue, or asking the team for help. As part of our role as investigators, I mean, our role it's to meet with employees, to do some training, to do some awareness operations. So training, Q&A session, posters, flyers, you name it. Your imagination is your limit. To address those, to address psychological unsafety, we can do investigation on specific patterns, and we can come up with recommendations to enhance the experience of employees. We need to have the active support from the management in this process. Remember, ethical leadership, something that we hear more and more recently. And we need to investigate specific issues to demonstrate the commitment from the management, and we need to monitor the changes. So if the changes do not occur, we can go back and help the employees to make sure that it's being done. And we need to remain accessible. We need to have formal and informal discussions with the employees. Remember, I mean, to remain accessible, we need to be able to be reached out. And I don't have some today to show you, but I have, good old business cards to be distributed. So whenever I meet some individual or some employees in the company, I just do some chit chat with them, and then I introduce myself and I'm explaining what I do. And at first, some people, some employees may have maybe a bit surprised by the job, but eventually they come back and they start to get used to it, and they talk to me. And it's good to start with that. And if you can, as investigators, participate to other internal networks like D&I, diversity and inclusion, or company network events, it's even better. It shows that you are human. It shows that we are human. We are not just the men in black. If you see, if you see if you have the picture in mind, we're here to be with the people. Let's say, as my day-to-day work, I don't put myself in a space where I am with my peers. I took a spot at every level, and I introduce myself so people know what I'm doing. People know who I am, and that makes a difference. And it's a proactive approach of investigations on top of the level 2. We search for answers in cultural inconsistent patterns. And also, what we could use as part of the tools to do so, we can use the exit interviews whenever your company do some. Try to have access to this data. This is heavily interesting. This is heavily relevant. People are more willing to talk when they are about to leave than where they are working in a company. Challenging, the challenges that we can get with this approach is to convince the executive team that it is the good approach you have. It's to let them know that their experience that they have on their day-to-day work at the company may not be the same as the entry-level employees. We don't want the senior leadership to minimize the experience lived by other employees. Small issues can be a big deal for employees and may not mean anything for the senior leaders. We need to make the executive team to understand what we do and how we add value to the investigation, to the company. It's a way to invest in their wellness. When we think of investigations, we don't necessarily think of wellness, but it's a way to invest in their wellness. And it's also a good way to bring real concrete data about the company. So now, there are challenges that with this level 3, and it's on virtual teams. It's with people going back to the office, it's maybe less relevant, but there are some tools here that we can see that could enable psychological safety in a virtual environment. Internal investigations, employees at the center of our process. We want to address retaliation. We want to reassure and we want to support employees when they report something or when they are about to report something. And this is a commitment to non-retaliation that must be repeated. And we need to take actions to support the commitment. It's not just saying to the employees, well, we're really committed to not retaliate against you. But it's also to walk the talk again. And by the actions that we can think of, it's to remind the employees to report potential retaliation wrongdoings. We want them to report as soon as possible when they are subject to such behavior. So we want to remind them about this commitment during meetings and follow-ups with the reporters, the witnesses, and the subject. We want to make sure that the subject understands well that retaliation is not something that is tolerated at the company. we want to remind that during the communication of the results to the participant of an investigation, and also on a regular manner with at the end of the investigation. But it's not only to remind people, it's also to monitor that nothing is being done against an employee. And by doing so, we are going to monitor any potential demotion. We are going to monitor any potential change in the performance. Also, any involuntary termination. This will help not to do just to enable the removal of the withdrawal of the fear of retaliation. Another aspect that I have identified as being a disabler of employees to talk, it's the fear of not being heard. We need to be visible during the process of investigation. So before an investigation, I think we need to communicate as to what we do. We need to involve investigation. We need to be involved during team trainings. We could just present something. We can just do a presentation of a case in relation with the audience. Let's say that if there's a training for the procurement team, we can come up with a case that we have investigated in the procurement department. We need to take proactive time to initiate a conversation. We need to remind people about the reporting channels. And also, maybe most importantly, we need to have the buy-in from the business leaders. During the investigation, we need to show support of the reporters, and we need to give them regular feedback. We need to set the expectation. We need to make sure that the reporters, they know that we are going to communicate with them. We are not going to give too much information, but at least to let them know that the investigation is still ongoing, or it's just done, finished. It shows that we take issues seriously and that we take action. At the end of the investigation, it's important to give feedback to the participants. I'm not talking about the subject. Obviously, this experience, his or her experience, will not be, the best. But we need to give feedback and explaining to what happened with the report and the process. We need to explain that the investigation was done. We thank the participants and that their participation was the good thing to do. Again, remind those people that if there's any potential fear or if there's any potential retaliation, to use the reporting channel to come up to reach out to you as soon as possible. Post-investigation, we need to recognize the role done by employees. We need to promote all the good things that were done while respecting the confidentiality of the participants, and also to involve the leadership in this process. And something maybe that we don't do usually is to be part of the rehabilitation process of the subject. We need to talk with the HR department or with the stakeholders to when the subject is not terminated, to see what is the mindset of the subject and how we can bring a better response to what happened. It will bring a better outcome, and the sanction will not be perceived as such. It will be perceived as not a punishment, but a way to grow. It will show people that we are going to help them to be where we want them to be. And it's going to be an impact. It is going to have an impact on the retaliation mindset of the subjects. And also what we can do is to have a follow-up with the subject to see the mindset after 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And I have a story. I don't know if I have too much time left. I'm nearly done with the presentation, but in the former employment that I had, we had an employee that we thought was doing timesheet fraud. Yeah, we thought about that. And we did the investigation, and as part of the investigation, we identified that there were lots of time, lots of hours not actually done, but it was not done with the intent of defrauding the company, of defrauding the client. It was done because of personal issues. And then when we met with the employee, I mean, this employee just fell off the chair and just realized how bad it was. And in partnership with HR, we help the employee just to change the behavior to be an exemplary employee eventually. And after that, with this employee, we were used to meet a lot, during the day-to-day job. And we started to build, some sort of relationship where I learned a lot from the business, and this employee understood what happened. We want to promote good actions when the reporters are not anonymous. The good thing would be to have the management to send a letter to the reporters saying, you did the right thing was done. We want to be able to evaluate that during the performance review, if it is measured, obviously, but also to see if we can have a better notation, a better assessment, and also appropriate comments as part of that. And the usual question, what about a bonus or a part of a bonus to thank for the good behavior? And when the reporters are not known, I think it's also good to have the management to talk freely with the team impacted and to say that someone reported something, actions were taken, but this was the good thing, that the fact to report was the right thing to do. As a conclusion, investigations, they are a positive sign in the company. It helps the company to innovate, it helps the company to improve the culture, and it helps to improve the corporate environment. Investigation 3.0, the holistic approach, is a way to innovate. It puts back employees at the center of the investigation process, and it's a shift in the mindset and in the relationship with the employees. We are not the police, we are colleagues, and we are going to work together to be in a better workplace environment. It's a way to improve the cycle. Business wants performance. Performance comes with psychological safety, and psychological safety comes with the possibility to speak up, the possibility to make mistakes, the support from the management, and also recognition. You did the right thing. Remember that. Investigators, we are keys to create deep psychological safety. We are ideally placed in the organization to do so, to be this bridge between employees and management. So some key takeaways: holistic approach, robust level 1 and level 2 implemented, up and running. We assess the culture and find inconsistencies. We create psychological safety. We are visible and accessible. Business cards, remember that, while remaining independent and professional. Executive team must understand the added value to this approach. And employees at the center of the process. We communicate during the overall investigation process. Limited communication, but still communication. We recognize when good actions were done. And I think this is maybe something that is maybe the most important. We involve management in the recognition program. So do we have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I actually have 3 questions for you before I get into the audience questions. You touched upon challenges and that might be faced by investigator. I would like to ask you, being a French national and who worked in Europe and now in North America, Canada, what are the challenges in terms or differences again in terms of jurisdictional regulation that could have impacted your investigation?
So I guess we still have 2 hours in front of us, right? No, so I will try to make it. I will try to make it just. I mean, short and sweet. I would say that the main difference that I have identified as part of a French national living in Canada, Canadian citizen as well now, it's I would say the comfort of reporting. Let's say that in North America, it is something that is usual. I mean, when we see something that is not good, that is wrong, we do not hesitate to report, just to raise the hand or to raise the flag. In Europe, the situation is significantly different, and it's due to the history. Remember back in the 30s, 40s, during the Second World War, there were what we call the collaborateurs in France, and also I think in other countries, but I'm thinking about France, where there were people reporting things, and most of the time wrong things, denouncing wrongly people to the Gestapo, to the Nazis regime. And now when we ask people to report something that was wrongly done in a company, they tend to identify this reporting system to the denouncing aspect back in World War II. And this is something that I see that is a bit challenging just to address, to make them, to let them understand, to let employees understand that, well, we understand what you feel, but I mean, we work for your comfort, we work for your job. I mean, if the company falls into a huge scandal, you may lose your job. Think about that. So again, it's just, this is the main thing that I can think of, that and data privacy as well. I nearly forgot the data privacy, even if it starts to be significantly taken care of here in North America, there's still a significant gaps between Europe and North America and Canada.
Okay, just linking it to what the other question is from our audience is the ethical challenges in modern investigations. What are some ethical challenges investigators face today, and how do you recommend they address them?
That's a tough question. That's a really tough question. Ethical dilemmas. I would say the first thing that comes to my mind is when we are too close to the individuals that are targeted by an investigation, and we want to avoid any form of, bias. We don't want the investigation to be tainted by doubts because we are close to the individual, or so this kind of thing. So I would say my recommendation, it's a uniquely a recommendation, is when you are too close to someone targeted by investigation, or when it comes to, when something that talks to you too much, when you can't just take a step back from what was done, give it to someone else and get away from this investigation if you can't handle it in a professional manner, because sometimes you can't do it, and that's fine, that's normal. Just give it to someone else. You can review the outcome, you can have you have context, but still just stay away from this investigation, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, we need to disclose the conflict of interest if there is during the investigation. That's absolutely something that we have to be mindful of doing. The other question from the audience, what is the ideal interface or collaboration between internal audit and an investigator? Is there any collaboration that can work?
We have the question today. So I don't have any one-fit-all solution for that. I have different experience. I mean, different way of working. I mean, work environment between when I left the French gendarmerie and now. But I would say that the best interface between internal investigators is just talk to each other. Just be, when you have something in mind, I mean, go talk to her, go talk to them. I mean, go talk to internal audits, or just internal audits comes to you saying, listen, we have identified this thing, you may want to look at it. And it's a collaborative approach. We talk to each other. We maintain confidentiality as part of our roles, but we talk to each other and we support each other as part of our mandates. I can't hear you. Still can't. Yeah, now.
Yeah, just referring to non-retaliation process, ensuring that there is no retaliation. How do we build the recognition system within our organization? Again, we need to create a role model within the organization. How do we create a recognition system beyond the recognition letter that goes from the CEO, let's say?
Again, I don't have a one-fit-all solution. I mean, it all depends on the culture of the company. It all depends on, yeah, I'd say, so there's the way of recognition of recognizing the efforts taken, because it takes guts. I mean, it takes guts to report something. And so we want to recognize, we want to have the business leaders to recognize the efforts done, and the fact that people, they just did the right thing. But also as part of as investigators, we want to create this somewhat relationship with the reporters and the participants. Just, hey, how are you doing? Is it good? Everything's fine? No, it was an experience, right? To have just a casual, a formal conversation, just to recognize that, we remember who did what, in a good way, obviously. And it also works with subjects when they are not just removed from the company, but with all stakeholders. I think it's really good to create this relationship, to enable discussions, to explain why we did things, and to explain why something happened. So it's just not seen as just a punishment or just something normal. Yeah, it says in the code of conduct that you had to report it, so you did your job. No, you did the right thing because you had the guts to raise the flag. It's just, it does not necessarily need to go through a letter, but also through conversations.
Yeah. Again, it can go beyond letter, can be compensation. I absolutely agree. I just want to end this with the last question. It is to do with post-investigation. So post-investigation, what happens? People avoid investigators' interaction. So how do you rebuild that trust within the organization and ensure that whatever they learned as a part of, not necessarily being a subject, but being part of this investigation, and what ways that we can rebuild and move forward?
So it's something that makes my team smiling. But every day several times every day, I go for a walk in the different levels of the building. And why I do so? So not necessarily because I just need to do some sports. There may be a reason for that also, but also to meet with people, to meet with the ones that are within the premises, and just to have formal chit chat. You know, if people try to avoid us in the workplace, I mean, we don't have to wait for them to come to see us. It's also up to us to go to see them. You know, we need to get out of this ivory tower that we are in as investigators. We need to show up. We need to show that we exist. We need to explain what we do and why we do it. We are not the police. We're here to help them. And this is the message. So basically what I do is I don't wait for the people to come to see me. I come to see them. Subjects, reporters, participants, and you create relationship. It is something that tends to be missing, more and more the more the time goes. So creating relationships with the people from the business, essential. Even if we are investigators, we can still wear black, sunglasses, but I mean, yeah, let's meet everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. That's again, continuing the partnership with them is very important, to last for a better organizational fairness. I'm done with my questions. Thank you for your insights, Mr. Thomas. Back to you, Hassan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Haytham. It's time for formal vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq for providing us opportunity to work as a function in Oman. I would like to thank CBFS, College of Banking and Financial Studies, for sponsoring ACFE 1 chapter. I would like to thank Mr. Thomas Ferre for a wonderful presentation. It was very insightful. I hope there was lot of takeaways from our attendees. I would like to thank all the board members, organizers, and volunteers for the session. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our ACFE Oman chapter members because they are the reason for our chapter existence. Members, we are looking forward to have your contribution, your cooperation, your commitment, and your support for the sponsorship of this our annual anti-fraud forum. We appreciate and thanks for all your support to the ACFE1 chapter. I believe there were many takeaways from this session. Take care. See you all in our annual anti-fraud forum, which is on 13th November 2024 at Sheraton. See you all once again in our next session. Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you very much.